Hi, I'm Andrew James Spooner, and you're listening to the FSF PopCast.
The show that makes you wish we were a little more timey-wimey and a little less wibbly-wobbly.
Our show is brought to you by our charity sponsor, the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, which supports the Wish Upon a Teen Foundation that helps out sick kids when they need it most. And just imagine the comfort you'll give Red Shirt crewman number 104. He'll know that when he puts on the red shirt and joins Dee, Brian, and Bria in their fight against the Skeksis, that he didn't leave his family destitute and without hope, because the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund has his back, and what's left of his essence.
So our guest today, who in his own words, because I'm stealing this directly from his own website, because I'm lazy like this. His website says that he's a puppeteer, an actor, a voiceover artist, a dad, a Doctor Who fan, a science geek, an animation geek, a sci-fi and fantasy geek, and, well, a geek.
Yeah.
Ladies and germs, this sounds like our kind of guest, if you ask me. So everybody, let me have the proud pleasure of welcoming Andrew James Spooner to the FSF PopCast. Welcome to the show, Andrew.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Great.
Very good.
It's a bit late here, so I'm, if I nod off halfway through, it's not you. It's just
We'd
really
understand if it was, though.
We'll pause the interview for a couple seconds. We'll send
I'll take a
alerts,
power
and
nap.
then we'll start back up. No big deal.
I'd forgotten I'd put that all on my website, so that's I should probably go and update it at some point.
I love when we pull bios off of people's websites and they're like, we haven't updated that in years. It's like, well, now's your chance.
There's your reminder.
It's on the list. It's on the list.
And the list is just never ending, and you keep adding things to the bottom of it. Every day.
Every day. Yeah. So, Andrew, speaking of going to your website, I went to your website and I was looking at all these different things, and I'm telling you that because typically when we start off in these interviews, I've gotten into the custom of asking people about their backgrounds, very first thing. How do they get to where they're at? What, how do they do what they do? All that kind of stuff. And I would have done that on this interview.
Oh.
However, I saw something on your Spotlight profile, because there was a link to go to your Spotlight profile from your website.
Oh, God. Okay.
And as I was reading that, I have to be honest, I misread it at first. But because of my inability to read, we have to talk about this first.
Okay.
And now that I see it, I can't unsee it, but I can properly read it, that it doesn't say pole dancing. And in fact does say period dancing. So what I'm curious about is, what is period dancing, and does it involve a pole in any way?
I love the more you talk, the more panicked he gets.
I know. Because I haven't looked. I should have looked at my Spotlight page for a while, but I haven't. I've been concentrating on the website. Period dancing doesn't involve a pole. I'm not sure they did pole dancing back then in the Middle Ages, unless it was jousting. And I'm not quite. Yeah. Maypoles. There you go, idiot. But what period dancing is when I went to drama school in the 90s. The drama school I went to was Guildford School of Acting, and it was a 3-year course. And it was a course and a college that was really strong on musical theatre. So what you did your first year is they had the musical theatre group and the acting group all in one great big group, and then at the end of the first year you would split off into your various specialities. So the musical theatre would go off and do musical theatre and be all bright and dancey and sing show tunes and stuff, and the actors would split off and we'd go and sit in a corner and smoke cigarettes and look depressed and wear polo necks and be unhealthy and stuff like that. And what period dancing was a there's a lot of costume drama in England, and there's a lot of period dancing for some reason. And what they did is, those of us that clearly had no dancing ability whatsoever, in other words, me and a few others, were shuffled off into this thing called period dancing, where you would just wander around holding people's hands and occasionally lowering and like that. It was a bit like Morris dancing, and you would do that for like 3 hours a week for no good reason other than they needed to get you out of the jazz and tap classes because you were causing a disruption by being so rubbish. So that's what period dancing was. So presumably I can still do it. It's in there somewhere, kind of like sense memory, but I honestly haven't used it in my career. But yeah, it's on there because, quite frankly, when you're starting out, you will put anything on your CV. I've ridden a horse, so I can ride a horse. I can ride a bike. Put that on there. I can swim. Put that on there. I can eat. Put that on there. I can breathe. Put that on there. Anything.
I wore shoes. Yes,
yeah.
I can. Tie
I can wear
knots.
shoes.
Understood.
Yeah, so that's what period dancing was, and I can just
Excellent.
remember laughing a lot. Just how ridiculous we all looked in our tights and our t-shirts, standing there going like this, my lord, bowing, and then going around in a circle, and then thinking, "What's for lunch? I'm quite bored now." Yeah, I've forgotten that was on there.
I was scrolling through the page, and I'd gone through a lot of your other all the things you just mentioned that were on there.
Yeah,
And I got down to that part, and I was like, wait, what?
Wait.
Oh, period dancing. No, that seems like it's something completely different. I think I should ask him about this because I had no clue what it was.
Well, I mean, I don't know transferable skills. Maybe I can turn it into a pole dancing career at some point if things get a bit dicey.
Well, I think the one hand up along the pole and then bowing courteously to other people, you get it figured out.
That's how we behave in England anyway. We do that when we're walking down the street. Oof, you know what we're like.
Excellent.
Very stuffy.
Okay, I got this. I don't got this. Sorry, I'm still just the tights and the t-shirt, and no, I'm good.
I've got photographs somewhere, but nobody will ever see them.
Oh, see, that's sad because my husband also says that there's photographs somewhere of him in tights, and I've never seen them either.
Ah, okay. He's holding out on you.
He is.
It's probably for the best. Are you happily married?
Is.
Then good.
It's for the best.
Don't go there. Don't go there.
He was probably an extra in Robin Hood Men in Tights.
It was Men in Tights related, yes.
Oh.
Not the actual film, but the Renaissance Festival close to us.
Ah, right. Okay.
That's
a big thing over there, isn't
John
it?
and Tights.
It is.
He's running around the
Right.
floors. Fights.
And he's going to edit all of this out with
Yes.
the internet does not need to know that I ever wore tights.
I think we'll have Nick edit this one just to be on the safe side.
Be like, no, you can't save yourself from this. Ha.
Exactly.
So looking through your list of credits, it's incredible and happens to include one of my favorite movies ever that I actually watched today again.
Oh, okay.
Muppet Treasure Island. I love that movie so much. Like, I love it so much that the first dance at my wedding was Love Let Us Hear.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Like, love that movie. My husband actually took the credits version, so the humans singing, took the first chorus out, put the Kermit and Piggy version in. So we start with the normal song, and all of a sudden Kermit and Miss Piggy are singing, and everybody in our reception stopped and turned and did that. Muppets? Like, yes.
I'm leaning over because I'm grabbing something you might be interested in.
Ooh.
Okay, which is where's the camera? I'll hold it up. That is a brass coin that was given to all the crew members after we finished shooting.
That is so cool.
Muppet Treasure Island. So it's got
that is
if you
very
can see
cool.
it's got Muppet Treasure Island written on. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, that's cool.
There you go. There you go.
There,
and on the back it says, "May the wind be always at your back. Thanks for everything, Brian and Martin." Brian, the director, Martin, the producer.
Oh, that is
1995, Shepperton Studios. And that's pride of place on the desk at all times. And also something I just found recently in the loft, which doesn't look nearly as impressive, but this is a cassette of the demos of the songs, not the ones that were in the movie, but the demos that they gave us all to listen to. When we were kind of just sitting around waiting for shots to come up, they would give us the demos so that we would learn the lip sync and stuff like that, so that when we went out onto the set, we didn't look like idiots.
That is super cool.
Yeah, I need to digitize that at some point because I've only just found it.
That's cool.
Yeah, no, I that was a great experience. I mean, it was really my first big job. Really, I'd been out of drama school for about a year, and I'd done. Right. Okay. Do you need context? Let's give you context. When I was at drama school,
context.
I was at drama school. I suddenly realized I loved performing, but I hated being in front of people, which is a bit of an issue. What do you do? And being a kid that had grown up in the 70s, my whole life was about Doctor Who, Star Wars, Muppets, all that stuff. So I thought, well, puppets, I was always vaguely interested in it. And in my last year at drama school, I wrote a letter to the Henson Creature Shop, which was in Camden in London at the time. Wasn't too far from where I was, and it was just pure, it was one of those things. It was just pure luck that I wrote at the right time. I didn't know this at the time, but what they were doing is they were looking for more puppeteers because Muppet Treasure Island was coming up, and a lot of the people they worked with before on things like Christmas Carol and movies prior had moved on to do other things. So they needed to find a whole load of people. So I wrote to them, and I got invited to go and do an audition. This was 94. So I went along and did the first audition, and the first audition, they literally just lined you up and got you to count 10 with your hand. And I'll do it here. I'm trying to figure out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, now everybody that went 7 with 2 syllables got picked. Everybody that went 7 got kicked out the door in that first audition, because I guess they're just looking for people that have an instinct for it. And 7 has 2 syllables, so you go 7. So I got through the first audition, and then I went back for 2 weeks, and we did kind of like a Muppet boot camp, where I think there was probably about 15 or 20 of us to begin with, and at the end of each day they would read off a list of people that had made it through to the next day. So it was horrifically scary. It was a bit like, the X Factor or Pop Idol or something like that. And then I got through to the second week, much to my surprise. And that last week there was 8 of us, and we did like really, really intense kind of puppet skill training and improvisation and all that kind of stuff, because the big thing with Henson's was that all the puppeteers provide the voices for the characters, obviously, but also that there's an improvisational element to it. You've got to be able to create things, and they basically they're looking for strong actors as well, which is not something that people really think about sometimes with puppetry. And I got through that last week, and really from that point, which was about mid 94, I started working for them on and off. Nothing major. And I was very, very low on the list. If somebody got food poisoning or was ill, they'd get me in, and I'd be a left foot or a right arm on a commercial or something like that. And then about a year later, I was doing a theatre and education tour of Romeo and Juliet in North Wales, and that's about as grim as it sounds. It was pretty grim. It was the middle of winter. It was Wales. It was Romeo and Juliet in front of a bunch of Welsh kids that really didn't want to know. And halfway through that, I got a call saying, "Well, we're starting Muppet Treasure Island. Do you think?" That was the bit that made me laugh. "Do you think you could spare a week?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I'll just check my diary. Yes, I can spare a week." And I literally finished the Romeo and Juliet tour on the Friday, drove from Wales back down to my parents' house in southern England, and then I was on Shepperton Studios the following Monday for a week. And in that first week, we shot all the stuff where Kermit, Captain Smollett, arrives in a horse and carriage at the boat. And I was just happy to be there. My character was way off in the background. You couldn't really see him until the high-def version came out. And finally, I could see what I was doing 30 years later. And I was just like, this is great. I've had a week. I was really only expecting to be there for a week. And at the end of that week, I was heading home, and the production manager kind of collared me on the way out and said, "Andrew, can I have a word with you?" And me being me, I was just like, okay, what have I done wrong? And he grabbed me and then said, "Well, do you think you'd be do you think you'd be available for about 7 or 8 weeks work?" I was like, yes. Yes. And so I was essentially on it all the way through. And it was my training. It was really where it was kind of my real boot camp for puppetry skills, because I started off in the background doing very, very minor things. And then Kevin Clash, who was the puppet coordinator, put me with Frank Oz for a week. Frank Oz only came over for a week to do like key scenes with Fozzie and Piggy, because he at that point he was just starting to kind of back away from the Muppets a little bit. But I basically assisted Frank for 2 weeks, I think it was in the end. And I remember he didn't speak to me at all for the first day. And I was like, okay. And I just tried to keep up. And then the second day, I kind of wigged out because I was very young. I was 20, 21, something like that. I was like, I don't think he likes me. And they were like, he likes you because if he didn't, you wouldn't be here. He would have got rid of you after half an hour. But then after that, we got chatting, and he was really, really sweet. And I think there is some footage on the DVD or the Blu-ray of me assisting Frank, and dotted around. But yeah, I mean, it was seminal for me. I kind of judge every other job by that experience because I had such an amazing time with an amazing group of people right at the tail end, really, of that. And I'm going to choose my words carefully here. Proper Henson ownership of the Muppets. I kind of, for me, those two movies are kind of the perfect Muppet movies. I like the originals, like Muppet Movie and Muppets Take Manhattan and stuff, but those two, I feel they found like the perfect formula for them, like the historic. I remember sitting on set with people going, what do you think they'll do next? Oh, they should do Muppets Three Musketeers. They should do Muppets Robin Hood. They should do something like this. And we all kind of thought that was where it was going to go, but then they disappeared off to the States and did Muppets in Space, which, from what I know, I wasn't involved in. That was a bit of a mess. I've never actually seen it, to tell you the truth.
It's a bit brutal.
Yeah, I know it's got some funny moments in it because I've seen them, but yeah, and so that was kind of my first big job as a puppeteer. And of course, as soon as you've got that on your CV, certainly as a puppeteer, that kind of opens all kinds of doors for you.
Right.
So yeah, that's I loved it. I love. Oh gosh, I've got this other story. I was telling somebody about it the other day. After the shoot finished, I went on a holiday, and then I came back, and they said, "Can you come back to the production office? Because your crew jacket's ready." We all got crew jackets, Muppet Treasure Island crew jackets. I've got it upstairs somewhere. And I was like, okay. And I turned up, and Brian was there, and he said, "Oh, Andrew, do you want to come out to lunch?" And I was like, I'd love to, but I've got to get the car back because my girlfriend needs it. She's got a thing. She's going out with some friends and she needs the car this afternoon. And he was like, "Oh, I was just going to go out have lunch with Hans." And I was like, "What?" And then he went, "Anyway, I'll see you." And he walked out, and Hans Zimmer's outside. And he walks off with Hans, and that choice. And I drove back home, and I said to my girlfriend, "I just got invited out for lunch by Brian Henson, the Hans Zimmer, and I had to come back to give you the car." And she was like, "Why did you do that? I would have let you go." And I was like, "Well, I didn't know that at the time, did I? You were like really strict. You said, no, you've got to come back with the car." So I came back with the car. So, I mean, I don't think my career would have changed much, but I would have had that experience of having lunch with Brian and Hans Zimmer, who's obviously, nobody knows who he is now. He's some film composer guy.
Yeah, nobody's really ever heard of him.
No. So while I was thinking about Muppet Treasure Island today, he's a Muppet puppeteer, and I'm like, does that make him a Muppeteer? Because I feel like that should be the actual term for it.
Well, it is, but it's weird because it's not one that I think you can self-apply. I think if people call you that, then that's fine. I never thought of myself that way. I just thought puppeteer. Until I did a show about 4 years ago called The Furchester Hotel. We did 4 seasons of it. Which is a fantastic show. Oh, have you seen it? You know it?
I have a little kid.
Oh, okay.
And
well, I played a character
myself. But...
Well, of course he did. It's Muppets. He's not going to watch Muppets. And I played a character in that. Again, it was one of those stories where I wasn't expecting to get it, but I did. And I played a character called Fergus, who's Elmo's uncle. Mm-hmm. So I immediately became canon, which I was very pleased about. And also, it was the one and only time I've played a lead character in a, Sesame Street / Henson thing. Mm-hmm. And people started calling me Muppeteer when we were doing publicity for that. And I was like, yeah, I think I've earned it at this point, even though it was like 20 years after Muppet Treasure Island and I'd done other stuff. But I would never self-apply it.
It just kind of hit me today with I'm like, because they're Muppets, not puppets. That would make them Muppeteers, not puppeteers. Yeah, no, it's true. It is a word that people use for them in the fan world. But as I said, awesome. No, I never use it on myself. That feels a bit. I'm English. And it's funny to me too, saying that I mean, talking about Muppet Treasure Island, with as much as I love it, I told my brother who I was talking to today, he's like, ask him what it's like to be on the second worst Muppets movie. And I'm like, whoa.
Up yours, mate.
Whoa.
Up
I'm
yours.
like, no, check that.
I don't know
at
who
the
you
door.
are, but you can go away, shove it where the sun don't shine, buddy.
And this is the part of the episode I'm going to be like, Fred, listen to this.
Sorry, you're going to have to bleep all of that out, aren't you? I don't
Oh,
know
no,
who
that
person
stays.
is.
That
Who
all
was it
stays.
again? Who was it? Who was it?
It was my
Who
older
said it?
brother,
Well, what's his name?
Fred.
Fred?
Fred.
Stupid name for a start. No, it's one of those things where at the time I think right, the problem you've got, are you okay? You're not dying.
Oh, good. Yeah, we're good.
You're right, Nick. The problem you've got is, like, without a doubt, Christmas Carol is a masterpiece. Okay, everything about it is perfect and magical, and there was a lot of pressure on them because that was the first big project they did after Jim died. So I think there was a lot of love. It was kind of a love letter to everything that he stood for. So anything that thank God it wasn't Muppets in Space, but anything that came after that was always going to be judged up against that. Now, when the movie came out, I will say that when I first saw it, I liked it, but it felt like it sagged a bit in the middle. And I still think that. But having said that, over the years, I've definitely had people say to me when they found out I worked on it, oh, that's my favorite one, or that's my second favorite one, or that whatever. It's definitely one that's kind of, I think, matured over the years and found its audience. I think at the time everybody was just like, well, that's no Christmas Carol. Well, no, it isn't. It's an action adventure movie, which is exactly what Christmas Carol isn't. It's a very different thing. And I just wish they carried on with those historicals, or taking a work of, literature and turning it into. We were talking about this, a mate of mine the other day, going, "Oh, Muppets Mad Max Fury Road." I was like, "Yes, come on!" With Animal as the guitarist with a flamethrower. Come on! I mean, it's never going to happen. But,
this is right up our alley, because the number of times that we have said that we need to recast movies with Muppets.
Oh, I do that
on
in my
our
head
show,
all the time.
repeatedly.
All the time.
No,
I'm like,
Dune.
if I was going to do this, who would be?
We were
going to
recast Dune.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. I'm not sure. Wow. Obviously, Kermit's Paul Atreides because he's the serious one.
And the only person that gets to stay in the movie as the human, I think, didn't we say it was going to be Sting's character?
Mm-hmm.
And he had to wear the metal, but he had to wear the metal underwear for the entire movie.
Okay.
So,
who would be Baron Harkonnen? Oh, come on, that's a difficult one. Come back to this. I'm gonna let.
I gotta find my notes and pull my notes.
I think it was
from
Sam
this.
the Eagle.
That would be amazing.
I think you're right. I think you're right. It was gonna be Sam.
And I like the 80s. I'm going there. I like the Lynch movie as well. There's a lot about the Lynch movie that I really like. I love the new one, but I found myself sitting in the cinema going, "Do you know what? The big takeaway from this is that David Lynch got really close to something special. He got so close, but it didn't quite gel. And Toto. Come on, guys, Toto. Why? We've got this big epic sci-fi sprawl. Who are we going to get to do the soundtrack? Toto. Okay.
Well,
why not Jefferson Starship while you're at it?
They assumed it was, Africa. They blessed the rains,
Some of the greatest lyrics ever written.
It was almost a spit take.
Yeah, almost. Sorry. Oh, you're right.
That's
that's
perfect.
my.
Well done.
There you go. That's my Furchester Hotel.
Oh, check that out. There you go.
Yeah, we get. It's rubbish. It's the stuff they give us at the end and go, "Yeah, thanks for work. Here, have a cup."
That's okay. Hey, you got a paycheck and you got a cup to take away.
I did.
It's not so bad.
So I think I found the connection for your period dancing was holding your arm up forever.
Okay.
Which helped you with
yes.
the whole puppet thing.
I hadn't thought about that. Built up the stamina. Okay.
At least you're not Big Bird, because that gets exhausting.
It does. I did a live show a couple of years ago. We did, based on Furchester, we did a live show like this kiddie festival. And the show was half an hour long. And unfortunately, because limitations of the set, the puppets were fairly static. Half an hour with a puppet on your arm isn't too bad if you're running around and moving. and shifting about and stuff, but half an hour of just standing there like that
Mm-hmm.
is a nightmare. I remember one of the last shoot days on the Furchester, we had to do lots of like interstitials and stuff and commercials and stuff that was going to go on YouTube. So it was really just a day of us standing behind the desk, and I was dead by the end of it. My arm was shot, and I can feel it now. I've got problems with my shoulder now, just from years of doing that kind of stuff. But I'm old, so what are you going to do?
You earned it.
I did. It's my war wound.
There you
So
go.
I can imagine some of the complexity it would be working with a puppet. I've seen some of the behind the scene footages of like different various puppeteer type movies like Dark Crystal and stuff like that. Unlike the behind the scenes, which are usually mostly serious, do you have a favorite behind the scene moment, whether it was funny, hysterical, or heartwarming?
I've got so many, but none of them are broadcastable.
Understood.
I mean, the problem is, yes, I've having been involved in various Henson things over the years, I've seen the outtakes, and they're not PG-13. They're slightly more adult in nature because you get tired and you try to keep the energy going, and people do silly things. And funnily enough, one of the things that happens with puppets is you improvise, you muck around. It takes a long time. I will tell you this one story. I don't think I've ever told it. There were these two like tiki heads on the island. There was two, and there was one set behind it, or it was one set. I was doing the one behind. Brian was doing the one in front, and you're just sitting there for hours, just sitting there, and we just started talking. I can't remember what we were talking about. Yeah, morning. Busy day. Yeah, busy day. What are you doing? Well, I'm just going to stand here. Yeah, I'm just going to stand here too. Be nice to move around. Yeah. And then suddenly halfway through, he went, Brian said, I've just realized he can't turn around to look at you. He doesn't even know that you're there. I think he might just think that you're a voice in his head. Kill yourself. I don't want to kill myself. Kill yourself. I don't want to. You just do this. This is the improvisation training and stuff like that. And we've got loads of stories like this. And part of what Brian has been doing recently with Puppet Up, the improvisation show that he does, which is a bit like whose line is it anyway, but with puppets, is try and bring some of that energy that he saw in those gaps between when somebody says cut and action, because stuff just happens because you muck about. You really muck about all the time. I mean, I had so much fun at Muppet Treasure Island. We would just talk to people. They would kind of just ignore us because we're under the set, but they would lock eyes with the puppet. And I've had full conversations with Tim Curry, but I don't think he would recognize me now. Obviously not 30 years later. And that was the other thing about that job. Just spending 8 weeks just watching Tim Curry work was just such a masterclass. I'm such a huge fan of his because I'm a drama student, and in the UK as a drama student you have to love the Rocky Horror Show. It's in the contract. You have to like the Rocky Horror Show and the Blues Brothers for some reason. It was those two in the 80s. So just being on set with him and listening to him sing, because he did a lot of his vocals live. There's one song in the middle, Professional Pirate, and I'm one of the pirates dancing around in front of him. That took probably 3 or 4 days to shoot. And just sitting there and just looking up and going, it's Tim Curry. It was just, I was in seventh heaven. It was a great job. But in terms of, stories, I did a show called Brum, which was a kids show done by a company called Ragdoll. Ragdoll, probably more famous for creating Teletubbies. But they had this show about a little yellow car, little animatronic car that goes on adventures. That was a show I worked on for a couple of years. And we did a lot of work with kids with terminal illnesses who would come on set and interact with the car. And I spent an afternoon with this girl who was probably about 5, 6, who had terminal cancer, who didn't have long to live. And the beautiful thing about puppets is, especially with an animatronic puppet like that, is that you can step back. It's radio controlled, and the kid doesn't see you. And she just interacted with it, and we would play off her, and she would pat it, and we'd nod, and then she would chase after him and giggle and stuff. And I just loved being able to bring that little moment of joy to her in what must have been a very painful life. She had a oxygen tank and all kinds of things. stuff like that. You sometimes you feel, I think, in this business that you're doing something stupid and a little bit silly and just for your own amusement, but then you see something like that and you go, no, I'm doing something valid. I'm bringing a moment's happiness to this kid. That was a really touching moment. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you for doing that, by the way.
Don't cry.
No, that's very touching. I have a chronically ill daughter who was in the hospital for an extended period of time, and we had Star Wars cosplayers come in and spend time with her, and we had superhero cosplayers come in and spend time with her and do all these different things. And so those moments are very, very not only heartwarming but uplifting, not only to the patient but to the families as well. So thank you for doing things like that.
Bittersweet, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see their eyes light up.
Exactly.
It's that suspension of disbelief that kids can do, and geeks, hopefully.
Yes.
We're really good at that.
Hey, you know what? Darth Vader walked into my daughter's room. I don't care if it was the real Darth Vader or if it was just a guy who was doing this for the fun of it with a recording box on his chest so he could sound like he was breathing like Darth Vader. For that couple moments, he was Darth Vader, and it
means everything, right?
I still question why they send Darth Vader to the children's hospital.
It's very questionable that he was not just the children's hospital, but we were in the ICU in the children's hospital, and here comes Darth Vader. I'm like, do you not watch the movies?
Dare anybody call him Master Vader? And that's what happens.
Yeah, don't think about it too deep.
Master Skywalker, what do we do? You get out of the ICU and you run, kid. That's what you do. You run. You run away from it.
Suddenly you're healed.
Exactly.
Sorry, no, I remember when you sent pictures of Vader coming to visit Kendall, and I'm like,
it was problematic.
You're problematizing. It's not a problem. The kid was happy. It's fine.
Oh, we had a blast with it while it was there. Even my daughter mentioned it later, that she goes, that's kind of a problem in the Star Wars world. I'm like, yeah, it is. So
let's send the child murderer into the children's hospital.
Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Don't.
Exactly.
La.
Smile and nod. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
All right. So, Andrew, you had mentioned publicly that you have professed your love for Doctor Who. It's on your website, so I can say it's public, and you've professed it.
Yeah.
He's British. Of course he loves
even
Doctor Who.
even if your website needs updating, it's been professed. But you've also had the opportunity to have your voice included in the expanded Doctor Who universe through some of the Big Finish recordings. And so my question for you is, because I'm looking at this as I'm a lifelong Star Wars fan. That's my favorite universe. That's where my nerd flag flies. So, but for you, even though you were recording at home during COVID restrictions, and I think, as you put it, the internet was out to get you during the recordings.
Sometimes, yeah.
What did it mean to you to be involved in Doctor Who?
It was nuts. I've been so lucky with Big Finish. I've done 10 or 11 various projects for them now. I've also done Star Cops, which was a show that ran over here for one season, which I urge anybody who likes sci-fi and that kind of sci-fi to watch, because it was written by one of the writers of Blake Seven, and it's great. It's a police procedural, but in space. Okay. I also did a Time Slip, which was another franchise from over here. But yeah, actually, the first Doctor Who I did for them, it was pre-COVID. It was a Sylvester McCoy one. And yeah, I was lucky that it was a director I knew, because I think I would have freaked out, because Doctor Who, to kids of a certain age, people like me who grew up in the 70s, so Tom Baker is my doctor, it's just looms on the landscape. It's huge. Even after Star Wars came out, Star Wars was a big thing, of course it was, but Doctor Who at that period of its run was probably on the TV most Saturdays during the year. It probably took 6 weeks off in the summer or something like that. So it was in your living room every Saturday after the sports show. And I just loved it. I loved the character. I loved the ideas. I loved the TARDIS. Just seemed to me to be the best spaceship in the world. Still think it is. Want one now. So having this opportunity I'd always wanted to be a Big Finish and try and do something, but it had never worked out. And then just by chance, one of the directors was an actor that I'd worked with on a pilot for Disney. And I was a puppet character and he was an actor in it. And he just had this project. It was called, what was it called? The Psychic Circus, and it's a sequel to The Greatest Show in the Galaxy, which was a Sylvester McCoy show. And he was like, "There's lots of little tiny characters in this. And they can't afford, huge casts. So what they need is actors that can do different voices, different accents, that kind of thing. And that's kind of my wheelhouse." So he called me in, and suddenly I'm there, and I'm in a studio with Sylvester McCoy and slightly freaking out. And I played a god of Ragnarok at one point, and I got to say, what was the line? "You shall be destroyed, Doctor." "You shall be destroyed, Doctor." And I was just like the happiest person on the face of the earth, because as a kid growing up, that was the line I wanted. that was why I became an actor, because I wanted to say that line at some point. And because I got on with them and they seemed to like me, then I went on and I did a Colin Baker one. At this point, COVID had hit. And I've done a couple of Tom Baker ones now. Unfortunately, he wasn't present for the recordings. He did all of his stuff separately. But even so, when I got the final copy through and I heard my voice opposite Tom Baker's, it was just like goosebumps on the back of my neck, because he's just such a huge personality in my life as a kid that grew up in the 70s. And the stuff that Big Finish have been producing all the way through the kind of hiatus when Doctor Who went off the air, right up to the reboot in 2005, something like that.
Yeah,
is really high quality and really good writing. So being involved in it was just like nuts, just absolutely nuts. And I'm forever grateful that I had that opportunity, because it was a real pinch me moment. I had another experience very similar to that recently, and I can talk about it now, even though it's been sitting on the shelf for like 3 years, when I got the opportunity to be in the Lego Star Wars game, the Skywalker Saga. Yeah. And just having to sit on that I think I sat on that knowledge for like 2.5-3 years before I could tell anybody. And I'm all over that game. It's like people say, "Who are you in it?" And I'm like, I honestly couldn't tell you at this point. I'm a Gungan, I'm an Imperial officer, I'm a Rebel officer, because that's kind of my wheelhouse. It's accents, voices. And I think the reason I got that job is because they were desperately looking for people that could do Gungan, do the kind of Jar Jar Binks thing, and for some reason I could do it really easily. So I got the job.
It's a hard voice to do.
It is. Nick wants to challenge you to a Gunganoff.
A Gunganoff. I can't remember any. "Me someone not no problem. Muy. Something like that.
He wins.
That's a little too Jar Jar Binks. I think the character I had to do was slightly gruffer, because obviously don't want to sound it like it wasn't Jar Jar. But yeah, and also they did on the game. There's a secret that you can unlock where it's all in mumble mode, because I think the original trailers, the characters didn't speak, they just mumble. They go, "Oh," and the fans were like, "We want a version of the game that we can play like that." So I went in and had to mumble Yoda, Qui-Gon, Han Solo, and it's harder than you think, trying to capture the essence of a character in a mumble. Yoda was easy. What's the difference between Han and Qui-Gon when they're mumbling? I don't know. But yeah, again, that was another pinch me moment, because it's like this huge union. I was a massive Star Wars fan as a kid, obviously growing up in the 70s. It was everything, especially in the UK, where we had a massive run up before it released, because I don't think it got released in the UK until 6 months or so after it had been out in the States, because there was a massive lead time in those days. So we had all of the magazines, we had all of the adverts on the telly, and it was just this ramping up of excitement. And then eventually went to see it and was just like, okay, I want to do that for the rest of my life. What? I'm not sure. But whatever that is,
yeah,
I want to do that.
And now a word from our sponsor. Since 1982, Vital Signs and Graphics has been helping professionals with all their image, logo, and design needs. Perhaps you're looking for signs and banners, truck and trailer lettering, business cards, brochures,
or other image and marketing aids, Vital Signs and Graphics in-house design studio has you covered. From logos to apparel, start to finish, Vital Signs and Graphics has everything you need to look and feel professional. Call Rick at 231-652-3300. He'll get you noticed.
Welcome back to the FSF PopCast.
So, talking a little bit about Doctor Who, you mentioned Tom Baker being your doctor. And Tom Baker is also my mom's favorite doctor. My mom and my dad are who got me into Doctor Who when it revamped in 2005.
Yeah.
Which was hilarious because it was we had BBC America. They were premiering the Rose episode. My dad's like, "Oh, you guys are going to love this. We need to sit down and watch this." And I'm like, "Okay." Got about halfway through the episode, like the mid commercial break, where I'm like, what is this? This is the worst. Like, the CGI is horrendous. Why is there a plastic dumpster? What is going on with this?
Evil plastic dumpsters.
End of the episode, it was okay, so where do I get more? I need this. I need this in my life.
It got you by the end. Oh, okay.
It got me by the end of the episode with I need more of this in my life. And so it's kind of cool to figure out you got into it as a kid with Tom Baker, and I'm trying to get my daughter introduced to it, but she's almost 4. So the 2005 and on series is a little bit too scary for her, but we might have to go back and watch some of the classic Who with her.
Yeah, I always say that the thing about Doctor Who, especially with kids over here, is that you have the one that you grew up with. And then, especially for kids my age growing up, then you have the one that you discover on VHS that you maybe didn't see. And for me, that was always Patrick Troughton. I wish there were more episodes that had survived, because I love his performance. And it's the first kind of classic Doctor performance. He brought all that kind of humor into it, and stuffing things in his pockets. There's a wonderful scene in one of them where he's being chased by Cybermen, and they've got him cordoned off in a corridor in a street, and they're coming down both, and he just sits down and starts playing Patience with cards on the floor. And I'm like, that's a super doctory thing that we kind of take for granted now, but he invented all of that. And I don't think he quite gets the credit for that, because William Hartnell was just playing him as a grumpy, slightly irascible old man that was, morally dubious at times. He did some weird stuff, and then suddenly there's this almost lovable character. And as for the reboot, I really wasn't on board for about the first 3. I don't know what it was. I think I had the same thing that you did. It was like, killer bins? Are you kidding? We've been waiting all these years and we get killer bins? And then the second one I remember being better. But I was like, but the first one that kind of grabbed me, I think it was the third or fourth, was a period piece written by Mark Gatiss. It was set in a funeral parlor, and it was kind of, I can't remember what it was called now.
The Charles Dickens episode with the ghosts.
Yes, and I was kind of like, oh, this is okay, they've got it. And I kind of locked into it at that point. My favorite, I've always had this hankering to have a Doctor Who episode where he lands somewhere, and I don't know if they've ever done this, but he solves whatever the mystery is, but there's no supernatural space or science fiction element.
That would be fun.
I know, because he's so smart, almost like a Sherlock Holmes episode, really. I think they probably won't do that because they have to have the sci-fi element. But I always thought it'd be great if he just landed somewhere and just solved whatever the problem was, because he's so super smart, and there's no sci-fi element other than him, really. But it's a show that I love to this day. We all have our favorite periods that we like. We all have bits that we're like, it wasn't quite for me at that point. But I've stuck with it through thick and thin, and it's my go-to. It's my comfort. It's my comfort food.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Definitely.
So we have a Facebook group that has over 200,000 members in it.
Wow. Okay.
Now, it is just filled with memes. It is mixed of this universe and this universe. It's just memes galore. So you've just been sucked into a time warp, and you've been transformed into a puppet. Which planet did you end up on?
I've been transformed into a puppet. What puppet? Or just a puppet?
Which puppet do you want to be?
Oh, animal. Absolutely 100% animal, because at least I can defend myself. What planet? Oh my
From
goodness.
any universe, Doctor Who or whatever.
You might have to pause here, listeners, and go off and make a cup of tea. Sorry, English. Make a cup of tea. Make a cup of tea and have some biscuits. I don't know.
Lovely, actually.
That's really interesting, because I've always said that if I was to retire somewhere, I'd like to retire in Middle Earth, but I don't think that really counts as a planet. So,
sure it does.
Really? Does that count?
Yeah.
It's technically it's an alternative history of Earth, isn't it? So I obviously
it's still a planet, though.
want to retire and live in a hobbit hole. But now I'm regretting being Animal, because that would be the worst place for animals to be. Can you imagine Animal just dropped into the middle of a bunch of hobbits? He would just kill them.
He would be so bored.
Ah!
We yell at him for being loud, and it just makes him mad. Oh, poor Animal.
Do you know what? I will go for somewhere like one of the planets from Geedy Prime. Does that mean anything to you?
No.
Okay. Well,
I want to say yes.
It's the Harkonnen planet from Dune.
Okay.
Only because I'm desperate to find out. Again, big fan of the David Lynch movie. The atmospherics and the world he created for the Harkonnens in that, I think, is deeply scary and deeply dark and industrial and horrible. And I think Animal would probably do quite well there. He wouldn't be intimidated by anybody. I think the reason I picked that is because having read Dune when I was quite young and watched the movie, it's the first time I read something and something felt truly alien. You watch something like Star Wars, and this isn't belittling it in any way, but it's like, oh, there's an ice place, there's a forest place, there's a snow place. They're all recognizable. In terms of the cultures that are there, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. The stuff in Dune, though, especially the books, is so, I don't want to say impenetrable, but so strange and alien. And I always felt Lynch caught that really well, and certainly Villeneuve has caught that well in the new movie. And I find that fascinating. I'd probably go somewhere in the Dune universe, because I think for like me, it would just be, I'd be like, I'm completely out of my depth here. Mm-hmm. It's a completely strange and alien culture, and I need to get to grips with it. So there you go. Let's go with Geedy Prime. That's a weird
good choice. Okay.
Wow, okay. I've never really thought about that. So there you go.
There you go. All right, Andrew, we're at a stage of our little conversation here where we like to take our guests through a bit of a quiz.
Oh God, no! I don't know anything. Okay.
All right. Well, we're gonna find out whether you do or not. Now, we're calling this quiz "Find the Whovian."
Okay. No, I still won't know, because even though I know the show, I don't read the novels. I just watch the show. Okay, go for it.
I think you'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we got 4 questions.
Mm-mm.
They're all multiple choice.
Okay.
All right. Now, if you get 3 of the 4 questions right, we want to send you this book right here. It's called Custodians of the Cosmos.
Oh,
it's written by our Facebook group founder, Drayton Allen. And it's all about a young man who wanted to join something quite like Starfleet, but not Starfleet, litigious reasons. And he washed out, but when he did rejoin as a custodian, because he wanted to boldly clean up after those who had boldly just went. So... if you get 3 of the questions right, we're going to send you that book.
Okay.
If you only get 2 of the questions right, though, remember that Facebook group that Nick was just talking to you about with all the memes? We take your picture, we make a meme out of you, and we put you in our Facebook group. We call it our fun sequence.
Okay. Let's go.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm anxious now.
All right, Nick, lead us off.
Professors Yana and Thascalas were aliases used by which villain? The Master, the Ood, or the Beast?
I'm going to go with the Master.
You are correct.
Oh.
Okay. Professor Yana was in the You Are Not Alone.
Ah, okay.
Sorry. I'm not a nerd.
No.
Yeah, not a nerd at all.
What enemy do the Doctor and Rose face in the episode Rose? The Daleks, the Autons, or the Cybermen?
Autons.
That is correct.
All right, you're 2 for 2.
Thing.
The nesting plastic.
Okay. The nesting
When
consciousness. Yes.
When the Doctor meets Amelia Pond, what is it that he eats and actually likes? Bread and butter, fingers and mash, or fish fingers and custard?
Fish fingers and custard.
You are
I
correct.
would say bangers and mash, like you don't know what it is, Nick.
That's three.
What? You don't know what bangers and mash is?
Sausages and potatoes, dude. It's not hard. All right, that's three, Andrew. That gets you the book, my friend.
Oh, thank goodness. I don't want to be memed.
And
This one is just for funsies.
Number 4, just for fun.
Oh, go for it.
What episode did River Song first appear in? Silence in the Library, Once Upon a Time, or School Reunion?
School Reunion was Sarah Jane Smith. What was the other one? Once Upon a
Time.
I can't remember that one, so I'm going with Silence in the Library.
You're correct.
Much like Donna Noble, have been saved.
Oh,
That's all 4. You smashed my quiz.
woof. Okay, I was really quite anxious about that.
See, we like scaring our guests and then
Yeah.
not actually having it be as scary as they think it's going to be.
Okay, maybe I'm more of a geek than I thought.
That would have been scary to me. I'd have failed it. So
Okay.
That's because you've watched like 2 episodes of Doctor Who ever.
3. Thank you very much. I started my 4th the other day. Didn't get through it, but we're getting there.
Oh,
I'm working on it.
Well, Andrew, thank you for being on the show today. Where can our listeners go to find out more about you and about your work?
Oh, okay. Well, obviously, there's the website, andrewjamesspooner.com, which I will update at some point and maybe take, not pole dancing, not pole dancing.
It's period dancing.
Period dancing. Take that off. So yeah, andrewjamesspooner.com. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram as @theonlyspoon. The Only Spoon. There we
Perfect.
go. There we go.
thank you so much, Andrew. We're going to definitely put those in our description so that our viewers and our listeners can find you.
Wow. So, yeah,
All right.
This has been fun. Didn't talk about my voiceover stuff or anything. I should do that one day. I should come back and talk about that.
We would
'cause,
love
We can
that.
totally do that.
Mm.
We
We
got
also
distracted
wanna-
by Muppets.
It happens.
Yeah.
There's a lot to
that's
talk
fair
about
enough.
there.
That's fair enough.
We also want to remind everybody that subscribing is the single most important thing that you can do to help ensure that we get more amazing guests, have these conversations like Andrew James Spooner here today, to be able to have these funny moments for you to be able to listen to. So please subscribe. It helps us more than you can ever really know. And go to Andrew's website. Even if he's going to take off the period dancing off of his website, it's still worth a check. But if for whatever reason you are not happy with our show today, please feel to lodge a complaint with the head of our complaint department. And that, of course, is the Daleks. These little rolling towers of hate are willing to exterminate at a moment's notice. So be prepared and have a properly filled out complaint form, as the Daleks have no patience for mankind and could easily consider you the offending party.
Yep.
But if your form is complete, consider the job done.
Mhm.
Ruthlessly efficient, they will get the job done, no matter how many humans get in the way.
Well, thanks again for being on the show.
I was just thinking, I've actually been killed by a Dalek in one of the big finishes, so that's I've already got a grudge against them. Also, I've been killed by an alien in Alien as well.
That was
in
the
one of
big finish.
The audible, one of the audible. So I'm right up there with Bill Paxton, who got killed by a Predator, a Terminator, and an alien. Right? Is that right? The actor Bill. So I need to get a Predator.
There you go.
I need
There's
to
time.
and then I'll take that off the list, and then I'll be up there with Bill Paxton.
There you go.
Awesome. All right, that's our show.
All right, guys, that's going to conclude us for the FSF PopCast. Thanks for listening or watching. Goodbye.
Ciao.
On behalf of the rest of the hosts of the FSF PopCast, we want to thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like to be a guest on a future episode, please contact us by means of Twitter or Instagram using the handle @FSF PopCast, or go to www.fsfpopcast.com and click on the Contact Me link. Thanks again, and hope you enjoyed the episode.